It all started on a quiet Tuesday morning, when Malik Johnson stepped outside his newly purchased home in the suburbs of North Carolina. The sun was barely up, painting the neighborhood in soft amber hues. Malik had worked for this moment for nearly 2 decades-long nights in the ER as a trauma nurse, missed holidays, postponed dreams, all leading to the keys in his hand and the deed with his name printed in bold. His house was more than just bricks and beams. It was the crown of his perseverance, but that morning, something was off. There it was, a silver Lexus SUV, parked diagonally across his driveway like it owned the place. He blinked hard. Maybe he'd misjudged the lines. But no, the vehicle was unmistakably blocking him, and Malik shook his head in disbelief. Probably a guest who got confused, he muttered, trying to be generous. This was a new start. After all, a fresh neighborhood, a clean slate. He left a polite note on the windshield. Hi there, this is my private driveway. Please avoid parking here again. Thanks, and welcome to the neighborhood. By evening, the SUV was gone, and so was his irritation, at least for a while. But 2 days later, it returned, and this time, Malik saw exactly who got out of it. A white woman in her late 50s, prim and polished, with a clipboard in one hand, and a disapproving glare in her eyes. She walked with a sense of entitlement that didn't match the humility Malik had hoped to find in his new community. "Excuse me," he called out, trying to sound neutral. "This is my driveway. You're blocking me in again." The woman turned slowly, her lips curled into the kind of smirk that says more than words ever could. "I'm Karen Whitmore," she said, as though it explained everything. "I'm on the HOA board. I needed to do a quick inspection of the hedges across the street. There's no parking there, so I used your space." "You weren't using it, were you?" Malik blinked. "Ma'am, this is my private property." "Yes, and as a board member, I'm responsible for community standards," she replied, waving the clipboard. "Try not to overreact." He clenched his jaw. This wasn't about hedges, and it wasn't about convenience. It was about control. Malik decided to let it go for the moment. He had learned long ago that some battles aren't worth fighting on the first day, but by the third time it happened, it was no longer a misunderstanding. It was a message. A week later, he returned from a grueling 12-hour shift to find the same SUV lounging arrogantly in his driveway. Malik parked on the street, walked up, and took photos of the car, the plate, the sidewalk chalk still visible from neighborhood kids. He documented everything. His hands shook, not with fear, but with a rising tide of rage. This wasn't just an inconvenience. This was theft of space, of peace, of dignity. And it echoed with something much deeper, that unspoken message black folks know all too well. You might live here, but you don't belong here. The next day, Malik called the HOA. He kept his tone professional. He explained the situation. The man on the other end sounded tired. "We'll look into it," he said flatly. Nothing changed. He filed a police report for trespassing, but again, no follow-up. Karen's SUV kept reappearing, sometimes for hours at a time. Once, it was still running when he returned home, as if to mock him. She wasn't hiding it, she was flaunting it. And then came the final straw. It was Malik's day off, and his mother, Angela, was visiting for the first time since he'd moved in. She brought sweet tea and stories, and they sat on the porch like it was the 90s again, laughing and remembering old times in the Bronx. And right in the middle of that precious moment, that same silver SUV pulled up. Karen got out without so much as a glance, heels clicking confidently as she walked off toward a nearby home. Angela looked stunned. "Is that someone you know?" Malik's jaw clenched. "That's Karen. She thinks this is her personal valet zone." Angela stood up, folded her arms. "Well, baby, you've been patient enough. It's time." That evening, Malik contacted a private towing company. He explained the pattern, showed them the photos and the police report. They gave him the green light. The next morning, when Karen returned to her Lexus and found nothing but empty asphalt and an oil stain, her scream echoed across the cul-de-sac like a wounded siren. Neighbors peeked out from behind blinds. She stood in the middle of Malik's driveway, demanding answers from the sky. Malik opened his front door calmly. "Looking for something?" he asked. You had my car towed. You had no right," she shrieked. "I had every right," he replied, holding up the documentation. "You were warned." Repeatedly, her eyes darted toward his mother, now watering Malik's garden. "This is going to be reported to the board," Karen snapped. "This is harassment." Angela chuckled from the roses. "You've been on his land, child. That's trespassing. You lucky he didn't press charges." Karen stormed off, fury in her heels. But she wasn't done. 2 days later, the car was back. Same spot, same arrogance. As if daring him to do it again, so he did. Towed. Again. This time, the towing company didn't even need an explanation. They remembered the plate. Karen's tantrum was louder, more vicious. She called the HOA. She called the police. She even filed a complaint with the city, claiming racial retaliation. But Malik had the receipts, literally every report, every call, every date and time documented. Every neighbor who'd seen the parking, every message ignored by the HOA. Wasn't retaliation. This was resistance. Karen tried to rally support from her fellow HOA board members, but something had changed. The second tow was a turning point. People had seen her behavior. They knew Malik. He was the one who checked on elderly neighbors, who shoveled snow for free, who volunteered at the community clinic. The tide was turning.